Hey there, I'm Alex. Today I wanted to continue where I left off last week after I had just trained the Gaussian splat. So the idea today is that I showed you how to export it, how to take it into Unreal, how to render it, and then hopefully that's a way that you can use your asset. So I have here the same project that I had last week. So now all you need to do is go to File, Export Splat Model. And in this window here, you just give it a name. By default, it's going to be a .ply file. So I've already gone ahead and exported the truck for us. And so the next step would be loading Unreal. However, there is something you need. We need to install a plugin that is called Luma AI. So you want to go ahead and install that. Keep in mind though that it is not compatible with the latest Unreal 5.4. It only goes up to 5.3. So in case you don't see it on the engine, that is why. You need to at least go as high as 5.3. So once we go into Unreal, what you want to go ahead and do is you want to hit Edit Plugins. And here under Plugins, you want to search for Luma AI. You want to make sure that you turn that on. And yes, this is just the beta version, so just be careful with it. It can be a bit unstable, but I've had a good experience with it so far. So you can just hit yes. It's going to ask you to restart, and I'll be back in just a moment. All right, so our plugin has been enabled. The engine has restarted and recompiled. So now if we go here again in the plugins section, you can just see it's enabled. So that's kind of it for the plugin part, and it's really light, so it's not a big download or anything. So the next thing you want to go ahead and do is find the PLY file that you exported. In this case, it's the truck PLY. So you want to go ahead and drag that into your content browser. So I'm going to go ahead and create a new folder here under content, and I'm going to call it Alex. Right, so I just do that, and now I can just drag in my .ply file. It'll take a beat, and then you see we are greeted with 4 blueprints. So we have 2 that say baked and 2 that say dynamic. And the difference between them is one has, they both have the lighting baked, the color is baked into the Gaussian splats. So the difference is that the one that says baked is not influenced by light, and the dynamic one is. So it's as easy now as just dragging it into our scene, and I'm just gonna find that there. So as you can see now, we have our Gaussian splat in here. Keep in mind that this is done through the Niagara particle system, so it'll never be as good as it looks inside post-shot. So that it does have that limitation. The other limitation that you should know about is the fact that you cannot, it will not cast shadows, right? Because it's just a particle cloud, and unfortunately there's no ability to do that yet. However, there is a bit of a workaround, if you will, where you could create a geometry from that point cloud, and then even though it's not going to look pretty, it's good enough to at least cast shadows, right? So you can at least cheat it that way. But for now, we're just going to keep it simple, just bringing in our Gaussian splat here. And actually, I'm going to go ahead and delete this one because I want to bring in the dynamic one, right? And I actually, let me just bring in both of them so you can see, you can look at the difference here. So I'm going to grab our truck here. I'm going to move it up if it will allow me. There we go. And I'm going to grab the dynamic one, and I'm going to bring it up as well. As you can see, there's already a big difference in the lighting, right? So I'm going to go ahead and delete everything that I don't need from the scene, which is, well, everything. And now you see our baked truck has the lighting not changing. However, the other one has actually turned off. So if I go ahead and add a light here, I'm going to say just a point light just to keep it simple, and I'm going to increase the intensity here, so you can see very quickly we have something that is interacting with our scene. So that's pretty neat, and to me that's the more useful one. So I'm going to go ahead and delete the other one that I don't need. So there we go. I'm going to delete all the call boxes. And now I'm just going to explain to you how this works. So I'm actually going to make this a bit hotter. And as you can see, when you bring in your asset, right, what you're going to see here is you have a bunch of call boxes, right? So if I select the blueprint, and I'm going to go ahead and say enable call box 1, right? What you're going to see is that if I grab that call box 1 here, as I move it through our Gaussian splat, it's basically punching a hole, right? So it's getting rid of anything that is inside the box, which is actually quite handy. So you can, even if you did a pre-cleanup in post shot, you can still come here and do final touches. So in our case, let's say we want to get rid of something like the ground, so I'm going to make it a bit bigger here. And then I'm just going to move it up slowly, and I'm going to get rid of these snapping settings, and that way we've now cleaned it up so that we don't have any of that of the initial table that was scanned, right? So that's a way of cleaning up your model. So now that we have that done, I guess the next step is, okay, so now we have this we have in our scene, how do we render this? So I guess normally you would just bring in a camera track and then you render it and then you can go ahead and composite it as you would. But for now, I'm just going to show you how to render it. So the next thing you want to go ahead and do is you want to create a sequence level, a level sequence, sorry, and I'm going to save it here inside my Alex folder. And I'm just going to leave it a default new level sequence. So the next thing you want to go ahead and do is create a camera for your sequence. So I'm going to hit the camera button here. It'll create a cinematic camera actor, and you're going to be piloting it by default. So whatever you're looking at is going to be your shot. So with that done, let's say we call this good. You can go ahead and hit the clapper so we can get into the render settings. And if I click here the unsaved config, all I've changed is I've set the export method to EXR, and I've enabled game overrides. And then for output, I'm just rendering, let's say 4K and just a single frame, because that's really all we need for this example. So the next thing you want to go ahead and do is hit render local. It'll take a second to warm up, and boom, our render is done. So now if I go into my folder here, and this is our 4K render of our Gaussian splat. And if we check for the alpha channel, you see it's all there. However, what you'll see is that we have some of those splats also affecting the alpha channel. So it's by no means perfect, but the fact that you can get this done so quickly and so cheaply, I think it's worth looking into and investing some time in doing some experiments. So I think that's going to wrap it up for me today. Hopefully this helps you. All right, cheers.